Okay, we are live, Jeff.
Hi.
Um, so, for anybody I'm going to give some people some time to join our live stream right now. Um, let me see. It says it's a problem with Facebook. Okay. Well, looks like everything's working fine. We've got a few people on here right now, but I'm going to let a lot of people join in before we start talking about all the really great topics that Jeff has on his notes today. We're going to talk about things like how to prepare for a hurricane, how to, not waiting till the last minute. What's the COVID situation right now in Playa del Carmen and in all of Quintana Roo? But I'm excited you guys are here. This is going to be a great live stream. If you guys don't know Jeff has done an interview with me before, and he so graciously accepted to do another one today. So for anybody who is watching maybe either this live or the replay, Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jeff. I'm from the New York metro area. I planned my move to Mexico starting in 2014. 5 years of planning. I actually got here permanently in December of 2019, and it's been almost 2 years, and I love it here. And I'm sure anybody else who's thinking about coming down is going to love it as well. It's such a great place to live.
It truly is. And for anybody who's just now watching and hasn't ever seen one of these live streams before on my channel, my name is Mariana. I am the owner of Mexico Relocation Guide. It's an online website that focuses mainly on giving you tips, advice, and just general information on how to live and retire in Mexico. So today's live stream, we're going to go over living in Playa del Carmen and just the general Quintana Roo area. So if you're interested in living in this area, you definitely want to watch all the way to the end, because at the end, we're going to open it up to some Q&A with Jeff, who actually lives there locally. And he's going to give you just his perspective and his advice on whatever questions you may have about living in Playa del Carmen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, Jeff and I have been talking offline, and we talked about the upcoming hurricane that's expected to make landfall. I know there's one going to like Texas, going towards Texas.
Yeah, that completely missed us. So we have nothing on the schedule or on the board right now. But we did have Grace a week ago, which started out as a tropical storm and ended up coming ashore just below Tulum, about 45 miles south of here, as a Category 1.
So for anybody who's watching, tell us how you prepare for that. As if you're a new expat in Mexico, how would you know?
There's a few websites that you really need to get affiliated with. Here in Quintana Roo, the Ayuntamiento de Solidaridad is the municipal government. They have a Facebook page, and they announce all kinds of information that's relative to the general public, not just for hurricanes, but cultural events that are going on, as well as weather, status of COVID, where you can get vaccinated, the days, dates, and times. The governor of the state of Quintana Roo also has a website page, Carlos Joaquin. That's another good source of information. He posts 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day. He also has a Twitter account. And then there's Coeproc.
Carlos Joaquin is
Carlos Joaquin. He's the governor of Quintana Roo.
His website is just Carlos Joaquin, or how would people
on the Facebook page, Carlos Joaquin, CarlosJoaquin.
Okay, I'm going to post that on the comments for you guys to be able to look that up in your free time.
Okay, and there's another really good website, Facebook page, and they also have a website. I'm going to spell it out: COEPROC, COEPROC, which is Coordinación Estatal Protección Civil, which is basically like civil defense kind of information. And they post the warning statements pretty much 5 or 6 days in advance. Because we have a 5-step warning program here in Mexico, and it runs in color grades. You start out at blue, and then you go to green, yellow, orange, and then red. And it's all based on proximity to the coast of the storm. Now, in each one of those color categories, the government tells you exactly what you should be doing at that specific time and how many miles away the projected storm is from the coast. As you get closer and you get into yellow and red and orange, they sort of pinpoint it to location of where you really should be on your toes and start making preparations for a landfall. Grace was kind of strange because it started out as a tropical storm and then strengthened as it came closer to the coast, went across the Yucatan as a tropical storm, and then exploded into a Category 3 when it went across the Gulf into Veracruz in that area, and they had a lot more damage than we did here in Quintana Roo.
Yeah, they
But
had a lot more like outages and
yeah, our power was only out for. I didn't lose power at all, which is nice. But most of the power outages were down in Centro, in downtown, and it was pretty much confined to one central area. And the commission, CFA, actually got the power on back relatively quickly. There was only a few stragglers, 7 or 8 hours that didn't have power.
that's
But
really good.
yeah, so they are on top of it, and you would think that it's going to be forever to get your power and electric back, but no. As soon as the winds die down and they can get out, they're out, repairing the lines. The good thing about it in the city is most of it's underground, so there's not a lot of damage that can take place.
That's smart.
But if you're going to get ready, the big thing is maintenance on your home. If you're going to be a homeowner here, maintenance is 365 days a year. In this climate, you develop leaks quickly because caulking, windows, roof seals, they all tend to dry out. So if you have a small leak in like May or June and hurricane season comes around, that's going to be a very, very big leak in September, October. And we seem to get most of our storms in that time period. Grace was a little early, mid-August. And last year we had 4 storms, and they were all within 14 days of each other in from mid-September right through October. So you really don't get a break, and you've got to make sure everything that you need to keep up to date on your home is done. My first storm, I wasn't ready. I let my maintenance go for a little bit, and I can tell you my front windows were like a screen door on a submarine.
Oh
I
man, you
had
have water coming in everywhere.
I just, and if the rain is okay, but when it's being pushed by winds that are 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, it finds every hole, and you spend 6, 7 hours just mopping and squeegeeing water. So I learned my lesson. Second, third, and fourth storms, no problems because I fixed everything that needed to get fixed.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't wait until the last minute to start boarding things up or anything like that.
No, and a lot of people tape their windows, which is really not necessary anymore, unless you're really you're right on the coast, and the chance of the wind blowing the glass through. I'm about 3 or 4 kilometers from the beach,
Uh-huh.
and we have a good buffer of trees between us and the ocean. So it's not so bad a little bit inland. But
Yeah.
there is, quite a bit of damage. Street signs, the overhead road signs, bent completely down to the ground, and that was only tropical storm. So you could imagine what a hurricane will do.
Now, what about the stores? Like, what's the frenzy like whenever there's a tropical storm coming or a hurricane?
The funny thing is, there's no hoarding here. It's like
Oh,
no
really?
people
I'm
run.
just
No, people don't run out for toilet paper. They don't run out for filling their carts full of bottled water. Um, 90% of the time, I would say close to 100% of the time, the whole event's over in about 6 to 8 hours. The only thing you need to make sure is that you do have extra water. That is really important. I order an extra garrafon, the 5-gallon jugs,
Mhm.
before a storm, because once the power goes out, if it goes out, most people's water systems are fed by pumps. So your rooftop is the only reserve that you have. And if the power goes out, you're not going to get water from the street level up to your roof because everything is gravity fed. And if you have hydro pumps like I do for water pressure, it just becomes a trickle. But you'll need water for flushing toilets and cooking. So
Brushing
when you
your
go,
teeth, everything.
yeah, brushing your teeth. Except the water here in Playa is suitable. Okay, you can brush your teeth. You can cook with it. Just not recommended. It has a lot of calcium, uh,
Okay.
which is bad for your kidneys because it's all limestone here.
Mhm.
But you could drink it if you had to. The other thing is non-perishables. Just buying, a few days supply of, rice, beans, that kind of foodstuffs. Everyone here has stationary gas tanks, propane, so you can still cook. Most people, some of the newer condos are all electric, so they'll have a problem. But for the most part, most locals and away from the coast, everything is propane tanks. So the only thing is you just need to light it manually because you don't have your little chispa to to
Yeah.
start the flame.
Yeah.
The other thing I do is just make sure everything is charged up, iPads, phones, because once the power goes out, you can't charge, and even though cell service gets a little spotty during a storm and right after, if the towers go out of power, at least you could pick up the local signals and still communicate. Because the first thing my family wants to know is if I'm okay, because they're back in New York and in South Carolina, and if they don't hear from me, it's like they want to send out the National Guard.
Yeah. They're ready to start booking their flight to see if they're gonna need to find you somewhere.
Okay. The other thing that's done here, which I found very strange at first, was once the municipality goes to red alert and they
Mhm.
know the storm is imminent and it's going to hit within the next few hours, basically the entire city shuts down. And for grace, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The governor made the announcement that at 2 o'clock, all shops and stores should close, and the dry law goes into effect. So no
Ah, yes,
alcohol
the
sales.
dry law. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody says, well, we need beer because that's the staple here. So once they announce the dry law, it's pretty well enforced. Stores will not sell anything, and you got to get it before that time.
Do
And
you do you
that
normally get a buffer though, like maybe a few hours before they implement it, so everybody rushes to get their alcohol?
usually about 4 or 5 hours before they make the announcement, or they set the time. they will tell you that it's going to be at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever. So you have a good 4 or 5 hours to run out and get whatever you need to weather the storm.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Um, but the funny thing is, shut down. They want everyone home and in their place of refuge by 2 or 3 hours before the storm actually hits. And they do announce refugee centers, and
Mhm.
they're located all around the city. And each one of those sites that I mentioned has all the locations and the number of people that it can hold. So they're very very well organized when it comes to the storms, and as long as you follow the information and it's out there. Um, some sites will even put it in English because they know there's a lot of expats out here, but the majority of it is in Spanish. But it's not difficult Spanish, so anybody can take a look at it and say, okay, it's time to go shopping or time to go home and get that last six pack.
Yeah, important priorities, of course. I
Hmm.
would want my wine to make sure to, what if you need to save your water to be able to cook
Oh,
or
true.
flush
And
the
we get lucky here because uh, we have a two tank system here. I have a cistern and I also have my tank up on top. And I live by myself, so I don't use a lot of water. And the only thing I go out to get is an extra garrafon just in case that tank should go dry. But I make sure it's full before for
toilet.
any storm.
For anybody who's watching and doesn't know that term, garrafon, it's a 5-gallon jug of water that is used in most households in Mexico as either cooking water, drinking water. So anyway, just to kind of insert that in
Yeah, it's like getting Poland Spring, and having your little cooler. Um, we have trucks that come and deliver twice a week here, so we don't have to go out and carry those 42-pound bottles of water around.
there. Yeah, that's super
Yeah,
important that you mentioned that because if you have bad knees or maybe you have bad, arms or elbows and you don't want to carry this 5-gallon jug of water and put it on a dispenser. Some people do have pumps that they put them on the ground and then the pump pumps the water out. But there are companies who will come and just install them for you.
right. My guy, when he comes Mondays and Thursdays. He carries it right inside for me and puts it where I want it. And it's always nice to tip them. And so he sees my Garafon outside, and I always put a clip on the money inside. So and it's always thank you, thank you, thank you. So, but it's a great service that they provide, and they also bring sodas, juices, and things like that on the truck. So you have an opportunity to buy those things as well. Not every company does that, but here in
Sure.
where I live, it's pretty easy.
So just to recap on some of the things that you mentioned on how to prepare for a hurricane or to number one, make sure that your house is maintained all year long. So you're not waiting until the hurricane hits for you to find out that you have a leak in
Exactly.
your roof. Yeah. And buy provisions and water obviously is number one.
Yep. Because and if you don't have a car, just remember that when they do announce the closures, public transportation shuts down as well. Okay, there are a few taxi drivers that are diehards and be out there, but then the price gouging comes in, and what used to cost 50 pesos to go from one place to another is now 100 or 125. So it's best to prepare the day before. Um, with the weather systems that we have now and all the information that's out there, there's really no excuse not to know that it's not coming. So you have a couple of days to prepare and get yourself ready. It just
Now
makes
you
sense to.
Yeah, it makes sense for you to prepare ahead of time. Get, lamps, batteries, things like that that you might need to use.
Yeah.
Now
I use candles for. Lost my
you're
earbud.
actually very involved in your community, and you're very active on a Facebook group that is for Playa del Carmen, just for expats in Playa del Carmen. And you did a type of roll call to figure out who had electricity, who didn't, like who kind of got the most damage from the most recent storm.
Right.
Notice most of it was in the centro.
In the centro area, and I kind of worded the post to just as roll call. Just please state your location and whether you have power, water, and cable. And there are 25,000 members in this expats group. About 200 or so responded, and because you have to think of the 25,000 that are members, not all live here. Most of them are, back home in the U.S. or wherever country that they're at. So I kind of worded it for, if you're here, tell us about what your status is. And that's why the post didn't get to be hundreds and hundreds of responses. It was pretty much just geared to whoever lives here. So we were able to pinpoint the entire section of Centro that was out of power, and it was basically like a swath that was maybe 4 or 5 blocks wide by about 50 blocks long. And as people updated that they had their power back, I was kind of sitting by the computer, and we would update, what street just got power back. So, people weren't wondering what was happening in their area. So
Yeah.
there were a few stragglers that came in like 10, 12 hours with no power, but those.
Oh, looks like we lost you for a second there. Don't worry, he'll be coming back in any second. Looks like you might have audio or
To
video.
get those people back.
Oh,
Okay.
I think we're back. Okay, I think we're
Better?
back. Yes,
Okay.
better.
Thank you.
Sorry, you cut out
So
there. So you were saying that, people would tell you when they were getting their power back. And
yeah, and we would update their posts, and because people were following it all day long, as to if they had power or not. And I added at the bottom of it that if you like this post and we'd like to do it again, 263 people said yes. So it was a pretty big benefit to everyone that signs on. So,
yeah,
and it's a very, very good page. It is monitored with an administrator. So you can ask your questions. They have to be approved by the administrator. I am not one. I am just a big contributor. And as they get posted, many people respond to your questions, suggestions, or recommendations for restaurants or looking for a specific item. So those are great resources if you're new to the area to ask your questions. And at least 25, 30 people will respond and give you their uh, their outlook
their
on
input.
what you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a
it's
very
good.
active community.
It is a very active community here, and you'll see that there's probably 15 or 20 people who are the most active in the group, and give most of the answers, and because they're longtime residents here, and they know exactly what's going on in specific areas. But
Now,
if you had a question, go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry.
Okay. If you had a question about going to Cefi Plan to register your car, anybody could answer your question and tell you how to do it. So you're never in the dark if you ask the right questions.
Now,
Okay.
because there are
Sorry.
these Facebook groups that exist and people are very active in them, it's also very common to get rumors and disperse, sometimes at the best of interest or even in the best of intentions, wrong information. So, for example, recently there was a rumor going on that in order for anybody to go into a restaurant, a hotel, or basically any business in Playa del Carmen or in all of the state of Quintana Roo, you needed to have a vaccine card or a negative COVID test that wasn't older than 3 days. So tell us more about that, because I know that's not the case.
No, that is not the case. It was announced. Were we back again now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you not hear
That was
us?
announced. Yeah, the video froze for a second there.
Okay.
Um, was a recommendation made by the governor of, of Quintana Roo, and it came out badly worded at first. And a lot of people took it as gospel that, oh my God, now you can't go into a restaurant or a shop unless you're vaccinated or you can prove that you have had an antigen test in 3 days prior. Then it took a while for the information to get disseminated out that it wasn't a mandatory law. It was a recommendation or a suggestion. So basically, what happens is if an establishment, a restaurant or store, wanted to exceed the 50% occupancy that's mandated under the semáforo orange, where the state now is with COVID, that they could ask for proof of vaccination or antigen test to increase the capacity of their business. But no one is doing it. I personally have not seen one single location here in Playa del Carmen that is asking for your vaccination card to get in. There are restrictions on some of the big box stores. Adults only, no children. Um, that seems to be the biggest one for going to supermarkets. Um, and a lot of people are very unhappy that if they have small children and they want to go shopping, they won't allow the small children in. So, but every big supermarket here, Chedraui, Walmart, Mega, they all have websites. You can order online and for delivery. So there are ways around it. But as far as needing a vaccination to enter any attraction here, restaurant or store, it's just not true. Uh, it's based on the occupancy level, and I don't think it would be really good for business. And a lot of people, I should say, almost everybody is not doing it anywhere here in Quintana Roo.
Now, do most people wear a mask when they are out and about that you've noticed, or what have you noticed?
Yes, the regulation is that you wear a mask in all public places. I could go down Juarez, Benito Juarez is the main avenue in Playa del Carmen, and 99.9% of the people are all wearing masks.
Hmm.
It's you cannot enter a store without one. Um, you get your temperature taken. They have sanitary gel, sanitizing gel as you go in. But if you have no cubreboca, they will not allow you to enter. The tourist areas are a little bit different, like down on the Fifth Avenue. You
Hmm.
will see a lot of tourists not wearing masks. But as far as locals go, like I said, 99.9% are all wearing masks. So, just go with the flow. And it's hot, but it does help.
Yeah. Now, so you notice that 99.9% of people are
Mhm.
wearing masks and they're complying with it and it's not a problem.
Yes.
But to just reiterate, you do not need a vaccine card in order for you to enter business, like a restaurant or
Okay.
hotels or
No, absolutely not. You're not even required to have a vaccine card to enter Mexico.
right.
It's just business as usual. Um, Leaving Mexico, depending on your country of origin, there are requirements. Canada requires a PCR test
Hmm.
to return to Canada. The USA only requires an antigen test done 72 hours before your departure time. And there are so many labs all over Playa del Carmen, at the airport. Well, you can't do PCR at the airport because it takes longer to
Sure, to
get
get
the
the test.
results. But antigen test, you could actually even do at the airport. You just got to show up a little bit earlier to get done.
Yeah,
I've traveled. I've traveled back to the U.S. 3 times now in the last year, and it's pretty easy. You just make an appointment and you go, and 10 minutes you're done.
have you ever gotten the test done at the airport?
No, but each time I go to the airport, I've always looked to see where it is in case someone asks. Right in the terminal, at least Terminal 3, which is the international terminal. I haven't seen, I've been into Terminal 2 in such a long time, but that's mostly domestic flights and a few charters go out of too. But primarily, yeah, terminals, and they have a kiosk, and it's very easy to do.
Okay. Now, when you have traveled back to the US and gotten your antigen test, I assume you got an antigen test.
Yes. Hmm. It
When did
was the
they
nasal swab.
Yes, it's the uncomfortable nasal
Yeah.
to your brain swab.
When I went to one of the pharmacies, Ahorro, and there was a few people waiting, and he just goes, "Siéntate, tu cabeza toca la pared," and yeah,
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable.
yeah. But and I wanted to sneeze like 2 or 3 times afterwards, but um, it goes away after a couple of minutes, and it's not that bad.
Is that the one that you recommend, the Ahorro Pharmacy?
um, for me, it's just more convenient.
Okay.
Um, on our expat page, under announcements, there's a list of all the labs that we know of in Playa del Carmen that offer the tests. And they're basically almost on every street corner now. So, because it's such a big thing. Um,
Yep.
there are hundreds of thousands of tourists that are still coming into Playa, and all of them need to be serviced at some point with some kind of test. So they're out there, and pretty much all about the same,
Oops, we lost you there for a second. Sorry about that, guys.
depending on the exchange rate.
Yeah. What is the typical cost that you've seen for an antigen test?
About 450 pesos, somewhere around there.
450 pesos, which is about $22.
It's about $22. Actually, the exchange rate has been very, very good the last couple of days. It's up over 19 again on the street.
Yeah.
Yesterday was 19.10. So you get 19 pesos and 10 centavos for every dollar, US dollar. And if you transfer money bank to bank, it's even better. It's probably around 1940, 1950 with a bank to bank transfer.
Yeah, hovering over
Yeah.
over 19.
Yeah. So now's a good time to transfer money if you need it because it
So
just goes a little farther.
that's actually a great point because there are a lot of expats who kind of time the market on when to transfer dollars to pesos to get the most pesos. So
Yes.
is that
Uh-huh.
something that you monitor regularly?
Um, I do and I don't. Uh, Last March, February and March, when it went over 22, almost to 23. That's when I really took notice and I started following it a little bit, a lot better. Uh, but is for people who are going to transfer on the street their dollars to pesos, they'll go crazy, because one will be 1860, one will be 1865. Don't knock yourself out for the 5 centavos because you're not doing a tremendous amount of money. $100, it basically comes out to about 10, 12 cents, that
Mhm.
you're wasting your time walking all over town for. So, just usually just find the closest place and, exchange $100. Now, go to a bank where the difference is 50 centavos or more, and you're doing $1,000. Yes, it makes sense to follow the market and change when it's more favorable. Okay.
Do you
But
normally
it's
do
been
bank to bank, or do you use a service like TransferWise or something like that?
okay. I go bank to bank, from my bank to
Oh, sorry about that,
or
everyone. If
from
there's,
Wells Fargo in.
we are having a little bit of technical difficulties. But that's okay, Jeff. You just go ahead and pick up where you left off. That's
We're
okay. I
back.
think we're back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I transfer bank to bank from the U.S. to Mexico, and if you're going to live here or even stay here, 6 months is basically the tourist visa that you can stay legally. So even 6 months is a long time. There are banks here that will allow you to open a bank account with a tourist card.
Hmm. Okay. Looks like we're having a lot of problems with the audio, or not with the audio, but with the video. So it sounds like,
Yeah.
one of our audience members asked us about the internet service, because I guess it's an important topic since we're cutting off a lot on like a regular live stream, which does use a lot of data, by the way. So just so everybody knows, it's not that the internet is terrible. It's just that it uses a lot of data on Jeff's end. So
It
maybe,
does, and it's also Saturday. Many people are home, so the internet is being pretty much taxed a lot more than it would be on a normal day. I work from home, and I rely on the internet. During the week, I have no problems. At night and on Saturdays, it can get a little bit touchy because there's so many people home, and it's sort of like merging onto a highway. There's just so much data that can go through the lines. We actually have fiber optic here in my complex, so this is good. And I have a VPN that goes direct to New York for my computers, so I don't notice any slowdown. So Saturday afternoon gets a little tough,
so we know that
but
for future live streams.
yeah. We were talking about the banks, and like I said, that there are banks here in Mexico. Santander is one of them, Cibanco and Intercam. They will allow you to open accounts on with a tourist card. So you can transfer money in, you get a debit card, and it is the easiest way to pay anything here in Mexico because we are a cash society here and everything revolves around having efectivo dollars. And if you can pay with your credit card, well, not credit card, but debit card, it's much easier. Even your services, electric, water, uh, they all can be paid through Mexican-based debit card, and it's saves you a big hassle having to go to one of their offices or use an app that you may not be familiar with, or having to go to the bank to pay your services.
What about people that want to use their American-based debit card? Do their systems not recognize those as being debit cards?
I've never tried a debit card. I use my credit cards all the time. I do have two favorite cards that I use because there's no international fees associated with purchases here, and I get points on everything. So I can pay just about anything with either my Mexican debit or my U.S. credit card. Um, the only thing is some smaller stores put a surcharge
Oh, yes.
on buying and using a foreign credit card, like 2 or 3%, because it costs them money to process the transaction. Now, a store like Walmart or Chedraui or anything like that, they're not going to charge you anything to use the card. But smaller mom and pop stores that don't have a big clientele, the cost of doing business with a bank card goes up. It's sort of like being in the U.S. A lot of places won't accept American Express because of the surcharges that they incur. So it's basically the same thing here, but few and far between.
Yeah. I posted something at the bottom there for anybody who is watching. Feel free to start asking your questions about living in Playa del Carmen or living in Mexico in general. And Jeff and I will try to answer those. If we don't have the answer, then we'll tell you we don't, but we'll definitely try to answer them as you guys post them. But anyway, so Intercam and Cibanco, what was the other one that you mentioned? So I can put it in the comments.
Santander.
And those will let you open up a bank account in Mexico without needing a residency card.
Correct. And they are peso accounts. I'm sorry?
I think this is only in Quintana Roo. Like, I believe this isn't the case Mexico-wide.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, because we have so many expats here and tourists. They are peso-only accounts. You can have your dollars converted and put into those accounts. In my case, I actually transfer in pesos and it arrives in pesos, so I'm not paying any conversion fees. So it's basically dollar for dollar. That's why I get such a good rate going.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like we lost him altogether. We'll see if he joins us right now, but feel free to ask any questions for myself or whenever Jeff gets back about either living in Mexico or living in Playa del Carmen, or any questions you might have about retiring or just moving to Mexico as well. I am going to post on the comments some of the things that you guys have asked. Like, for example, Tony asked, there you go, we have you back. Tony asked, hey, regarding visa renewal, did you start with a 1-year visa, then applied in Quintana Roo for a 4-year visa? So Tony wants to know that.
When you apply for temporary visa, temporary residency, the first time is only 1 year. So you have to renew after that 1 year, and then it goes. You get the additional 4 years after that. The fee is, I'd have to look it up, but
it's about $100.
Yeah, about that.
If you do it by yourself, if you don't hire like a facilitator or an immigration lawyer, the immigration fee is about $400. If you hire a facilitator, then obviously it's that plus their fees.
Well, the good news here in Playa is AMLO, who is the president, Andres Obregon, I can't remember his last name, but AMLO. Yeah, he was one of his priorities was the renovation of the INM system, And here in Playa, it used to take 8-9 months to get your card once you applied. Now it's being done in under a week. And in most cases, same day after,
Okay.
as soon as you get your paperwork approved. But your first year temporary visa to enter is actually backdated to the day that you arrive in Mexico. So
Yes.
you have 30 days to complete the process. Once you arrive here, like for example, I arrived on December 19th. I didn't get my card until after February because they were still going through some growing pains with all the changes, but it was retroactive back to December 19th, the day that I arrived.
Yeah. So you actually had like 8 months before you had to renew it again.
Correct.
Almost.
And it's so much easier having residency here. You're entitled to all the government services. It's discounts, local store discounts, all the attractions here, Escaret, Explore. You're considered a national, so it's where it's $110 for tourists to enter, you're paying half price to go in. So it
Correct.
does have its benefits.
Yeah. Not to mention that, now I've seen a lot on Twitter and I've seen a lot on INM's Facebook pages that they are really starting to crack down on the number of people who are just perpetual tourists and people who just come every 6 months, leave for a day or two, and then come enter again for another 6 months and never get residency. So with
Yeah,
the new system that the president put in place, because they have everything digitalized now, they're really able to see if you're just a perpetual tourist.
well, the thing now is once they scan your passport at, at your point of entry, they see all of your entries and exits right on the screen in front of them. And it's really up to the immigration agent at the kiosk to decide how long you get. If you get the 180 days, or if he has some inkling that you're a perpetual tourist, they've been only giving 7 days or 30 days. And actually, people have been denied entry that were doing the border runs. I guess the
Yeah.
most common one was to Belize. And last year, with the Belize border being closed between Mexico uh, and Belize, no one could go get their visas
Yeah.
restamped for or reset for 180 days, so they were having to leave the country. Um, but INM has been doing operations up and down the coast in Cancun, Isla Mujeres, Cozumel, and they basically just set up checkpoints and they want to see your documents. And if you don't have a valid FMM tourist card, they want to deport you.
Yeah.
And I understand that the process is not very nice.
It's not a detention center, it's a
Considering.
jail.
Yeah, it is.
It's a jail.
And I've heard some horror stories about people who have had to go. And most recently, a lot of people being denied entry because of the multiple entries. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to
And
talk
don't
about?
overstay your visa. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay, if I feel like maybe we cut you off there. Tony, you asked if he applied for the 1 year temporary visa after he arrived in Mexico, not while he was in the US.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but the process is you have to start the residency visa in the US
In
or
your home country.
wherever your passport is from. Unless you have family in Mexico that considers you a family reunification visa or residency visa, then you can start the process in Mexico. So he's asking if you actually started the process in Mexico, not in the US.
Okay. Yes, I did. You don't actually even have to use the consulate that is closest to you. I did mine in the Orlando consulate. I lived in New Jersey at the time. The requirements for Orlando were Financial requirements were much less than in the New York area. So I took a day, flew down to Orlando, had my appointment, and was back on the plane going back to New York the next day. Then you
They
have
didn't ask
30
you
days to end. I'm sorry?
They didn't ask you. They didn't ask you why you were coming from New York to Florida to get your
No,
residency
no,
there. Okay.
no questions at all. They're really interested in only the paperwork and the financials that you can show them. That are the requirements, and you bring copies and originals. And most consulates are very good answering questions. Orlando is very, very good. For visas. If you email, they will respond. I probably emailed them 4 or 5 times before I got my temporary, and they answered all of my questions because I wanted to make sure that when I got there, I had everything that I needed, and I was going to come home with my visa.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
a real
probably one of the
problem.
happiest days of my life.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's so great. That's beautiful. There's actually a
Yeah,
really big problem right now
I
with
cried.
the consulate. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lag with our audio, but there's actually, I want to mention this because a lot of people have mentioned this already in all the forums. There's actually a really big problem with the consulates not having enough appointments to even start the residency process. Um, so I want to offer a solution, but I also want to get Jeff's input on this. A solution is always to either hire somebody who will, that's going to be their only job, is to call every day, get online every day, look for different appointments in different offices, and then make the appointment for you and tell you this is where you need to go. Instead of you spending every day calling, looking at the Mexitel or wherever you make the appointment
Yes.
from.
Yes.
But I want to
Yeah.
get your input if you've heard this also from other people who've arrived in Playa.
Not to some degree, yes. Some Canadians have been having problems getting appointments at their local consulates, but they actually used consulates in the U.S. to get their temporary residency um, paperwork processed. So, like I said, you don't have to use the consulate that is closest to you. It just has to be outside of the United States to start the process. But they've said that it's been either from 2 week wait to 2 month wait to try and get an appointment uh, for for their residency. And that process is very quick. It takes about 90 minutes to do. It's just getting there is half the problem.
Tell us about the questions they asked you in your interview and your appointment.
Um, Absolutely no questions whatsoever.
Okay.
I just presented my documents. I had to have a year's worth of bank statements, and I came to Mexico on a little bit different way than most people. Um, I still work for my employer in the United States. There is a threshold of the minimum that you have to make to enter Mexico. Um, the salary that I was going to be receiving from my employer exceeded that minimum. So I had a letter from my employer on their letterhead and signed and then notarized that I was going to be making this amount of money and that I was going to be employed while I was here in Mexico. And that's basically how I got my residency for temporary. Okay.
Yeah.
My financials and the bank statements, and so I did not have enough for permanent residency to apply. So I started out with temporary residency. So,
Now,
so
after the
though,
4 years, you plan to go to permanent.
yes, for me it's automatic now. All I have to do is just convert my temporary to permanent. And then I will do my 5 years, and
Oops. I think what he was going to say there is he will do his 5 years and then become a U.S. Mexican citizen. Sorry, Jeff. We heard up to you're going to do your 5 years and then
Become a dual resident, Mexico in the U.S.
a dual citizen.
I've always wanted to live a dual citizen. Yeah, I've always wanted to live here, and I think that would be the icing on the cake to be able to do that.
Oh, yes. Jeff loves Mexico. So he's a great person to know if you're interested in living in Mexico, because he has a great perspective as somebody who went there, still works for his American company, but lives there now as an expat, semi-retired. Bought a house there. Like, you've really been through the whole process from beginning to end.
Yeah, I'm pretty Mexicanized right now. I have my driver's license, all of my government ID. I have my CURP, so I'm entitled to all the government services, and I'm actually going next week to apply for security here, which is the health insurance plan. Um,
Okay.
so that that's next on the agenda.
Yeah, good for you. For those of you that don't know, there is a health care system in Mexico that's public. It's available to residents, regardless of whether you're temporary or permanent. And it's based on your age. You do have to pay a
Yes.
fee for the one that you're talking about, which is IMSS.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There is a fee based on your age. And the benefit of this is you can basically go to any of the EAMS hospitals and receive free healthcare, up to certain things. Like, there's certain things that they will stabilize you there, but they might send you to a specialist in a private hospital, which then you would have to pay for out of pocket.
That is correct. And in my age bracket, I am 64. It is 13,800 pesos a year, which is about 600,
700.
yeah, about $700.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped my private health insurance here, which was $4,000 a year for because of my age, and I will be doing the IMSS.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that. Why not?
Yes.
Tony has a question about, because you're very good at your Spanish. So he says, are you fortunate enough to be fluent in Spanish before you moved to Mexico? Or are you learning on the fly today?
Well, I think we've had this discussion before. There's so many different types of Spanish, and let me clarify. There's vacation Spanish. There is going out to eat Spanish, and there is living here Spanish.
Okay.
They're different. Yes, I have a really good understanding and comprehension of Spanish. I've been speaking it for a very long time, work related. So the vocabulary is completely different to what I was really expecting when I got here. To answer your question, Tony, the first time I went into a bank and they asked me what I wanted to do, I had a cheat sheet of all the vocabulary that I needed for the bank, because that is something that you don't really practice in the United States. I mean, you do your numbers and all of that, and you can comprehend what they're telling you number wise. But when they start getting into all the specifics of opening an account and there's just so many nuances and different words that you're not familiar with. You kind of have to have your little Google Translator with you. Same thing going to buy insurance. The words that you're used to hearing in English, you're not going to hear going to buy insurance. So you basically need to do a little bit of homework beforehand and sort of learn the living here kind of Spanish. and more colloquial, believe it or not, because people don't speak so formally here in Mexico than they do, say, in Spain or other countries. So you do learn a lot. Um, so if you speak Spanish before you come here, you'll have a leg up on most people. Um, but I have to tell you, the people here are very, very nice. If you try and speak Spanish and they see you're struggling, they will help you. It's just one of the nice things about living here. Um, I get run over by my train of thought sometimes in a conversation, but they all understand, and at the end we all have a good laugh, and it's nice, and but the nuances of living here, if you think about it, going shopping, going to the bank, those are good things to try and learn before you come, especially if you're going to live here.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, if you're interested in living in the Playa del Carmen area and just the coastal area of Quintana Roo, the Riviera Maya, Jeff is actually one of our recommended private relocation tour guides in this area, and you can hire him to take you around, show you different grocery stores, show you different doctor's office, dentist's office, neighborhoods, questions that you might have before you move to this area to see if this area is right for you. And Jeff is just, I mean, he's a lot of knowledge. So he's very involved in his community. He's a great person that you would want to hire if you were interested in this area and you want somebody to take you around. You can't go wrong with Jeff. And as you can tell, he's super
Oh,
friendly
thank you.
and he's a lot of fun. So he'll also
Yeah.
take you to some very interesting, I'm sure, bars, restaurants, and you guys would have a lot of fun together.
The restaurants are the best part. Nothing in the tourist area. We're going local.
There you go. And that's what you
Yeah.
want, because you want to know what it's like to live there locally. But it could be scary to not know how to get around, what places to go to, how to shop, how to go to the mercado and buy fruits, vegetables, how to barter, how to ask for discounts and things like that.
Yeah,
So
it's different. When my family came down for the first time, I took them into the supermarket, and my sister was like in culture shock because things are like totally different than what you're used to seeing in the U.S. Specifically, nothing's in English, so you have to be able to understand what you're looking at. But you go through the fruits and vegetables, and you're going to see things that you've never seen in your life. And you say, "Well, what's that used for? How do you cook that? That looks good. What's
yeah,
it taste like?" And all the fishes and seafood and um, different types of meats that are all on display, and understanding what part of the cow it came from, and and how you
yeah.
cook it. It's interesting.
That's a big thing.
I
Like not even knowing how what body parts of the cow you're buying
Oh
is
yeah.
going to the grocery store. Like Google Translate doesn't always translate perfectly.
No, not at all. And it's a lot of sometimes meats are pre-prepared, like cecina. Uh, uh, it's salted and with volcanic ash and other things. So, it may look like flank steak to you, but it's really not flank
It's
steak.
different. Yeah.
It's cecina. Uh, but that's the fun part. And the restaurants are even better. Last night I went out with a Mexican friend of mine. We went to a local seafood restaurant called La
Mhm.
Bamba Jarocha. I had shrimp paella, and it was about $15. And there was probably 50 shrimp in
Wow.
this plate, and it's excellent. It's just those are the places I go. I don't go to anything touristy. I eat local, shop local, and even buy my tortillas in a local local shop.
Good for you. Yeah. Yeah. You don't buy them prepackaged from a plastic bag. You get them fresh.
No, these are fresh, and it's funny because it's the honor system. Now you buy them by the kilo, and the price of tortillas are regulated here in Mexico. So they don't touch the money. So you tell them you want medio kilo or full kilo. They weigh them out, and if you give them a 50 peso note, he puts a plastic bag on. He takes the 50 peso note, and then there's a big bowl of change. You're on the honor system to take
Totally.
the change out.
Yeah. It's
So
great. And I mean, it
yeah,
works.
yeah, it's fun. The first time I did it, I was like, "Wow, am I really understanding what I'm supposed to do here?"
Yeah. Am I going to get slapped in the hand for trying to take my pesos out of here?
No, but best tortillas in Playa del Carmen are on Avenue 7.
So I'm telling you guys, like, if you're interested in living in this area, you can't go wrong with hiring Jeff
Yeah.
and having him be your private relocation tour guide. If you want more information about that, comment and I will tell you exactly how you can get more information on that. Um, but before we sign off, because we're at about the top of the hour here, I want to open it up to Jeff and just tell us, any other advice that you can give somebody who might be interested in not only living in this area, but perhaps anywhere in Mexico.
The biggest piece of advice that I can give to anyone coming to Mexico to live is bring a little bit of patience with you. If you're going to come with 10 suitcases, pack 5 of them with patience. It's not that service is bad here. It's not that the people are not happy to help you. It's just that things take longer here than what you would be normal in the U.S. If you want to open a bank account, expect to spend 3 hours there, not half an hour. But once you get past all of that, and I make it a game. It's fun to just go in and say, yeah, I can do that. And once you get comfortable, you can do anything here. You just really, really need a little bit of patience and just understand that it's just not going to happen fast.
No, yeah. Especially like even when you go out to eat at a restaurant, they will not bring you the check until you ask for it. It's considered rude to bring you the
Absolutely.
check before you ask for it.
Um, One of the funny things is most people here call me Mr. Jeff, Senior Jeff. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I have other friends who they call me Don Jeff. And if I go to their house and they ask me a question and I'm speaking and their kids talk out of line, they'll say, Cállate, Don Jeff está hablando.
Your level of respect
So
just went way up.
I know. It's like, and they said, I'm no Don, and I'm just a normal person. And but like I said, to go to someone's house, they just open up everything to you, and I have more fun and the best times just going to visit my Mexican neighbors and just sitting around and talking. I ask questions, they ask questions, and that's how I've learned a lot about living here. And you can't be afraid not to go out and try something, because you'll never know if you can if you don't do it.
Yep. Patience is a big thing. You're in a new country,
Yeah.
you're in a different culture, things are done a little bit slower. So,
Hmm.
embrace it. Take that time to slow down.
Yeah, exactly. When people talk a little bit too fast for me, I have to tell them, I said, yeah, slow down. Sometimes you have to talk to me like I'm a little child, whatever, just use
Yeah.
simpler words. My favorite word here is mande.
Yep. So
I
what
don't
does that mean for
understand.
anybody that doesn't know? That means what? Excuse me?
But
Yeah.
it's better than saying "que."
Sure. Yeah.
It's much more polite.
Yeah. And also maybe even like, you know, patience also in just something that I noticed a lot. I'm actually from Mexico City. So I was born, raised in Mexico, but lived in the US most of my adult life, or a lot of my adult life. But one thing I've noticed whenever I spend time with my family or anybody in Mexico for that reason, compared to someone in the US, is Mexicans will really take time to try to get to know you. They will ask a lot of questions. They're naturally curious.
Mhm.
They may explain things very detailed. Like it takes time for them to say something that maybe in the US we're just quick. Like for example, sending a message to somebody on WhatsApp, like you never open with just your question. You always open with, "Hi, how are you? How's your day going?"
Yeah.
You wait for the response and then you ask your question. Like you never just go for the question, because that's considered like very rude, or not very rude,
Rude,
but very
right?
just
Right.
like very straightforward, and we're not used to that. So just it's something that maybe some people need to realize, that that's just the way it is in Mexico. Somebody is very trying to like ask you about your day or something like that, just go with it. It's normal. It's traditional.
Yeah, and they do a lot of abbreviating too, in when they're texting. K is K instead of QUE.
Oh yeah.
Porfa, and if you ask the question, you get an answer back. If it's an affirmative, it's SIP.
Yeah, there's a lot of
So
slang.
a lot of slang in there, and it takes a few minutes, and I have to go back and say, let me read that again, make sure I got it right. And there's a lack of punctuation too.
Yeah.
So some things just run into each other, and then you have to separate the sentence out and say, okay, he's agreeing to this, but we have to do this first.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
kind of fun. So it's sort of like, being detective to figure out exactly what's being said. But WhatsApp is the way to communicate here, with everyone, even my doctor, directly to him, on WhatsApp. Um, Even at the bank, you have a question for your banking executive, you have his WhatsApp number, and you talk to them directly. There's no secretaries or anything like that. You need to go to the doctor, you text Dr. Luis, and he'll tell you when to come in. And
Yep. Yep. They'll be quicker to answer you on WhatsApp than any other platform. I mean, it's WhatsApp is the way to communicate in Mexico.
and my doctor, he loves to talk too. So if I go in just for a basic checkup, and it's supposed to be like 15 minutes or whatever, it's usually like 1 hour conversation. That's why things take so long,
Yeah.
because it's just
Yeah. But don't you love it,
so,
Jeff?
it is. I really do love it, and when you go talk to your doctor about a health issue, and then you end up leaving the office, and you're talking about something that's going on in Quintana Roo, or some restaurant that he's been to that's really really good. So it's more one on one, and more on a less formal basis, and which is really really nice, and you get to know um, a lot about people, by having conversations with them. Now, I know my doctor has his wife is a doctor, his where his kids go to school, and all kinds of things. So
Everything.
they're very open about their lifestyle, and you learn so much about culture and different things that are just normal here that we don't even know about.
Yeah, that's how you build community. And that's why Mexico is actually rated the number one country. There was a survey done by thousands of different expats around the world that have lived in different countries or that live in Mexico, and ranking those other countries where a lot of expats live. Mexico ranked number one as the country with the most inclusivity of foreigners, because
Exactly.
people really do want to know about you. They truly want to know about you. Like, it's not just courtesy. It's like they truly are curious about you.
One of the really nice things about Playa del Carmen is everyone here is not from Playa del Carmen. They were not born here because Playa wasn't Playa 50 years ago. Cancun is only 55 years old. Everyone that is here in Quintana Roo is from some other part of Mexico. They came here for work opportunities. So it's such a big melting pot of culture and styles of cooking from all over Mexico. And just the dances and the accents and the food. Um, you can go to any restaurant on any street and you can have food from Oaxaca, Tabasco, Sinaloa, Nuevo León, Michoacan. It's just great. So it's not just you're eating Yucatecan food or just traditional Mexican food. It's from all over the country here. And when you talk to people and they tell you where they're from, they're just so proud of from where they're from. And then you get to
Yeah,
hear about their state as well. So
yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So,
yeah.
just if you're interested in learning more about living or retiring in Mexico, I will post in the comments the website for Mexico Relocation Guide. And I want to thank Jeff. And I want to thank all of you for watching, obviously. Like, thank you
Yes,
for
thank you so
joining us
much.
and just like, hearing us ramble on about
Yeah,
different topics,
I
but
think so.
all very important topics.
About the place we love.
Yes, yes. If you want to see another interview with Jeff, feel free to comment. And also, if you would like a private relocation tour from Jeff, comment and I will tell you exactly how to get more information on that. But Jeff, thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure, and I love speaking with you. And
Yeah,
hopefully, you'll come
likewise.
visit me here in Playa.
I'm planning on it. I'm
Okay.
planning on it in the winter, so we'll go
Okay.
get a
We'll go
margarita
for
or beer.
seafood.
Yes, I want some of that paella. Those 50 shrimp.
50 shrimp.
Say hi to Quito for me.
I will. She's been very nice. She's been sitting here just watching.
Very good. Good girl, Quito.
Good girl. She's a good girl.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye
See ya.
bye.
Bye.